September 9th, 2020. If you could all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Garvey, could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Fritz?
Here.
Mr. Helm?
Here.
Mr. Jenkins?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Here.
Mr. Anger?
Here.
Garvick's present.
Thank you. Next, we move on to the approval of the agenda. As long as there's nothing to add, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
So moved. Move it.
I got Mr. Mahoney with the approval. Do you second it, Mr. Jenkins?
Support.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Next, we move on to the approval of the minutes of the August 26, 2020 meeting. I will entertain a motion from anybody who was here for that meeting.
I make that motion that they've approved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I will abstain since I was not here for that meeting. Next, we'll move on to public comment. This will be for anybody that would like to speak before the meeting. George, let me know if we have anybody that's for the public comment portion. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to new business. First is a request for a final site plan approval for Temperance Animal Hospital on parcel number 5802-034-02001, otherwise known as 7375 Lewis Avenue, Temperance, Michigan. Karen, can you give us some background, please?
I'm not going to read the entire analysis because it is quite lengthy. What is being proposed at this site is a new build of the Temperance Animal Hospital on the same parcel that is currently being utilized for the animal hospital. The structure to the west is going to be demoed and the new facility will be constructed there. And then once constructed, the existing animal hospital will be demoed and parking lot will be placed in that location. They meet all of the requirements regarding the zoning and land use patterns. There is no residential to the north, to the east, and to the south of the property. The property immediately west is C3 zoned. I think the doctor would like to maybe comment on that with maybe possibly proposed parking, or excuse me, buffering. Parking lot, the standards are all met. Dumpster unloading and loading. They are providing an area because their deliveries are with box trucks and not with semi-tractor trailers, so they have widened the loading and unloading area and reduced the length by 10 feet, which will serve their needs. Fencing, landscaping meets the required site lighting. Again, architectural requirements also meets the requirements. The one thing that you may want to discuss is for signage. They are looking to continue to have their two freestanding signs. The detention basin was designed around those two freestanding signs. One is located on Stearns Road, one is located on Lewis Avenue. There is no location for a sign to be placed on the immediate corner. To reduce that to one sign, there are many utility poles there along with guy wires, and due to the road right-of-way, there is no way they can locate the sign out of the corner clearance area and stay out of the road right-of-way. So for safety purposes, we are suggesting to maintain those signs and give them permission to keep those two signs. Wall signs we may want to discuss. We are going to have consideration for, and I will read this portion. The applicant is seeking to place a 53.2 square foot sign on the east side, which is a Lewis Avenue sign of the structure, where a 50 square foot sign is permitted by ordinance. On Stearns Road, a 79.04, including the logo, is proposed where a 50 square foot sign is permitted. So you may want to discuss that. No sidewalks are required in a C3. The reviewing agencies have all approved, and I did include an inclusion with any motion for approval that you may want to use as reference, but some of those items will have to be determined specifically for the signage. So I think they're ready to go with everything. Everything has been addressed, and we have the reviewing agencies reviews for approval.
Mr. Chairman, could you please ask on the phone just
Yes, if you're on the phone, can you please turn off your, anything in the background that's making noise? It does provide feedback for the TV or computer. Thank you, Karen, for that. Do we have a representative for Temperance Animal Hospital on the phone?
Yes. Yes, I'm Jim Colony. I'm the engineer that did the site plan from Colony and Colony Limited, and I also think the owner is joined us.
Excellent.
Yes, my name is Dr. Chris Ravery, and I am on the phone also.
Could you just state your address for the record?
Colin Campbell from BDA Architecture, we're the architecture firm for the project.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add to what Karen has laid out for us?
This is Jim Colony. No, I have nothing to add. I can answer any questions pertaining to the site plan, but no, I have nothing to add.
This is Colin from BDA Architecture. I as well don't have anything additional to add.
Thank you.
And this is Dr. Chris Ravery, and the only thing I guess that I would add is I had talked about putting a fencing up on the west side of the property line that is probably not included in the project plans, and potentially even replacing the existing one that's on the south side of the property.
So you are planning on putting a fence on the west side then?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, at that time, I'll open it up to any questions or comments from the Planning Commission. Yes, Nancy?
Can I ask you what would be the height of the fence on the west side? That's between the back of your building and some residential structures?
My plan would be to do whatever the permitted highest height would be. So I don't know if that's 6 foot. Honestly, I have not looked at that, but it would be a vinyl fence to whatever height is the highest that the ordinance would allow.
And your reasoning for that?
Just to kind of keep their area separated from ours, to help somewhat with noise.
Lighting pollution.
Okay, and then Karen said 79 square feet. For which sign was that? Which direction? East, west, whatever?
The bigger sign is the sign that would be on the north side of the building, which is the Stearns Road sign. So it would have the wording Temperance Animal Hospital, and then below it is the little heart with the dog and cat in it.
Okay, it kind of looked like some other kind of vermin to me. I couldn't tell if that was a dog or cat, but okay, thanks. That's fine with me. I was just curious. Thank you.
I didn't see if anyone else had a hand up, sorry. Oh, yes, Mr. Mahoney, sorry.
Just a quick comment. Looking at the drawings, I think it's a beautiful building you've designed, and just want to say appreciate you investing in Bedford, and it's going to really enhance that corner, that intersection.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yes, Mr. Garvey?
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here a little bit, but I don't have a problem with the sign being a little bigger on the side. The building's going to be tore down. It's going to be moved back, so I think it's actually going to enhance that corner. And I know they've been there a long time, but I don't think it's an obstruction on the building. Just my opinion.
On that same aspect, I was thinking for the scale of the building, it doesn't seem large at all. I have a question more for Karen on, it says that sidewalks aren't needed in C3. Why is that?
Interestingly enough, when we looked at the ordinance for C3 and the architectural requirements, sidewalks are not required in C3 zoning districts, nor in C2, only in C1. And professional business office, but not in the C3.
I see something we need to work on in the future.
Good luck.
Right? Is there, Mr. Jenkins, yes?
Yeah, I've probably reviewed thousands of site plans in my time at the township, and this is probably one of the most well-prepared set of plans I've seen. So congratulations to your consultants.
I can't thank you enough. This is Jim Colony. I never get that kind of thing. I only get criticism. So this is
Well, I
the
haven't
first
gotten
time.
it.
I don't know what to say.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Uh-oh.
Yes, Mr. Kemprith?
I was just curious. It looks like the combined parcel to the south, only part of it, the northern part, is involved in the redevelopment, and I was wondering what was happened to the southern end of that.
Of the parking lot?
Yeah, the southern end of the combined parcel. I'm not so sure it's involved in the new improvements, or am I reading this wrong?
If I may.
No, you're
Yes.
you're reading that correctly. This is Jim Colony. Dr. Avery, do you want to discuss maybe the south end? We're leaving that untouched, and we designed the whole site and all of the storm drainage to blend in with it. But that was part of the plan, is to leave the area adjacent to that existing building sort of separate, even though it's part of the land parcel, to leave that as is for the time being.
And
So
what is the existing condition? Is that pavement?
Yes, that's correct. It's fairly good shape, but it's like a stripped low building, existing asphalt pavement in good repair that I think maybe somebody else can comment on. But yes, to answer your question, it is the part toward Lewis is existing asphalt pavement, and the part behind the building is there's some concrete steps, but it's I think there's some grass area back on the area to the west of the building behind it.
So this is Chris Ravery. I actually own both of those parcels. So the little strip mall that's there, I rent out. And so the parking lot there will be maintained. And with the additional parking that will be on the south side of the new parcel, then that strip mall can also use some of that parking also potentially. But really it's I own both of the parcels. And then we just use the drainage from the one to be put into the one drainage ditch.
Thank you. Yes, Karen?
And if I may add, Dr. Ravery is owner. It is under the same ownership. However, should that south parcel ever be sold or split off, the parking that is within that that parcel, even if you eliminated that parking for the new proposed animal hospital, they still meet the minimum requirements, more than the minimum requirements for parking just for that structure. So it will be shared parking right now for the multi-unit to the south, but if it were ever split, They still meet the requirements for both if they were to stand alone.
So that has been combined into one tax parcel presently?
No, they are separated. If you take a look at SD1, they do identify those as two separate parcels. They do have some shared parking on there, so cross easements would be required from herself to herself. And there is some parking located within that parcel to the south. But if that were to ever be sold off with that parcel to the south, the parking that is available on the animal hospital site alone meets the requirements for parking for that site. They don't have to have those other parking spaces that are included in that south parcel.
So part of the new development could be sold off with the southern parcel?
It really wouldn't be new development. It would just be a parking area that's already there. They went through a land division. We did a rezoning and went through a land division. And the east portion of the parcel was attached to the multiple unit, and the west portion of the parcel was attached to where the animal hospital is going to be located, and now will be utilized for, I'm assuming, staff parking on the south side of the structure. Is that correct, Dr. Ravery?
Yes, that is correct, Karen.
If there's no other questions, I will entertain a motion at this time. Yes, Mr. Jenkins?
Were you waiting for a motion? My computer froze up when you were talking.
Yes, I will entertain a motion at this time if there's no other questions.
Okay, I'll do that.
Can I ask a question, Matt?
Yes, Mr. Fritz.
Matt, a question before the motion's made, if that's what's going to happen now, is that, does that sign have to be addressed separately?
Within the motion.
The signage, does that have to be addressed separately?
It can be made in the motion.
Okay.
As long as it's addressed at some point, yes.
Right, okay. Thanks.
Are you ready?
Yes, Mr. Jenkins.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the site plan for Temperance Animal Hospital, and with the proviso that the applicant address all the comments and conditions of the Monroe County Drain Commission, Monroe County Road Commission, Bedford Township Fire Department, and Manikin Smith Group. All light fixtures shall not exceed 20 feet in height and are directed downward to avoid off-site glare. 3, the 2 existing freestanding signs shall be permitted to continue as a sign cannot be placed in the corner and be located outside the corner lot clearance area basin location. However, the 2 permitted must be brought into compliance within 7 years to comply with the then existing sign ordinance. 4, the wall signage has been approved as 53.2 square feet for the east elevation wall sign and 79.04 square feet for the north elevation wall sign. 5, there should be no outdoor kennels or dog runs. And 6, a privacy fence shall be installed along the west property line to maintain headlight pollution within the parcel.
I do have a question on the motion about the 7-year compliance. Will that ever be necessary if this is a way to keep it a safety thing? Yes, Karen.
Signs can be brought down. They are well located outside of the corner clearance, brought back down to what will then be required. We never know if the sign ordinance is going to be the same as it is today. So what is in existence at that time, the sign shall be brought into compliance at that time.
But it could still be two separate signs, in other words, still.
Two separate signs, but I believe with approving this site plan, we have agreed that the two signs will serve the site rather than reducing that to one. There is no location to safely put one sign, and the detention base is already designed to take into consideration those two signs in those two locations.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Wait a second.
I will actually second the motion. Mr. Garrett, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Anger,
Yes.
Mr. Fritz,
Yes.
Mr. Helm,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Ms. Tennevery,
Yes,
and Garvik votes yes.
Motion approved. Thank you for making a very nice presentation for us.
Thank you all very much. This is Dr. Avery.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes, I will do that right at the beginning. Next, we move on to item B, which is a request for a sign waiver for Expressive Properties Bear Insurance on parcel number 5802-015-06900, otherwise known as 9041 Lewis Avenue, Temperance, Michigan. Just to reiterate what George just said, could you make Mrs. Mills make sure the TV or radio or anything that's making noise in the background is off? That way we don't have reverberation.
Yes, everything's off. I'm outside.
Thank you. And Karen, can you give us some background?
Yes, again, the applicant is Barron Insurance. Fast Signs is the contract sign company. The owner is Expressive Properties. The location is 9041 Lewis Avenue within the C1 Temperance Village Overlay District. On June 11th, 2007, the then property owner was issued a sign permit to install new signage to the structure and replace the facing of a non-conforming pylon sign, which at the time did not meet the requirements of the sign ordinance, section 419.22. I'm not going to read this entire portion of the ordinance other than it says a 7-year grace period shall begin, which shall mean that within 7 years, the sign shall be made to comply with non-existing provisions of section 419.22, where it shall immediately become non-conforming and illegal. That time frame has expired. To go on, when the permit was issued on June 11th, 2007, the property owner signed with the notarized signature the agreement to bring the non-conforming sign into compliance on or before June 17, 2014. Unfortunately, the sign was never brought into compliance and the property is under new ownership. When the owners made contact with the township, Ms. Nussbaum was informed there was no waiver required for the wall sign as a previous determination of June 29, 2007 was made that the signage could be installed on the face of the building as presented. However, the non-conforming pylon sign must be brought into compliance as a monument sign is required by ordinance. The applicant has stated the hardship is due to the very limited area to install a monument sign on Lewis Avenue. The applicant has stated she is willing to sign a new agreement that will meet the new ordinance within the next 10 years as they eventually plan to modify the building within 5 to 10 years and will provide space for a monument sign. Well, the 7.52 square foot wall sign meets the requirements by ordinance as determined on 6/29/2007. A waiver is required to permit the 28.29 square foot existing non-conforming freestanding sign to continue where a monument sign is required. And then we have the following criteria for the sign waiver consideration. Should the request be considered, the following waivers are required. To dismiss this June 11th, 2007 owner signed notarized 7-year grace period commitment that required the owner to bring the non-conforming sign into compliance with the now existing sign ordinance, to permit the non-conforming freestanding sign design to continue where the monument sign is required, and all required permits shall be obtained from the Bedford Township Building Department. If you take a look at sign that's being proposed at the front of the building. You can see where the pylon sign is located well outside of the road right of way, actually within a flower bed that is directly in front of the structure. And if you take a look at the sidewalk photo that's included in the packet, you can see that there is really no location for a monument sign. The pylon sign pole has been identified. So they do have limited frontage there where they would not be able to place a monument sign at this time. So it's the board's desire how they wish to address that, if they want to consider something at a later date or require other requirements they want to hand forth now.
Thank you, Karen. Mrs. Mills, would you state your name and address for the record, and then if there's anything you'd like to add, just you can go ahead.
Yep, my name is Amanda Mills, and do you want the business address or my personal address?
What is the standard for that, Karen?
She can give her business address if she wants to.
Okay, it's 9041 Lewis Avenue, and that's in Temperance, Michigan, 48182.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add to Karen's analysis?
No, she said everything really well. We do want to, comply with what is needed. However, with those photos, we sent you, unfortunately, there's really not a spot to do that right now. But we are looking in the next 5 to 10 years to make some modifications to our building. And of course, in those plans, we will make sure to have the required sign spacing designed into that renovation.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. I was out there just the other day to drive by. I've been by it 1,000 times, and to put a monument sign would actually, I think, be dangerous to anyone trying to leave the parking lot. And so I think leaving it. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, right now we even have a hard time sometimes pulling out of the parking lot with one of the buildings there, and we have to go very slow because of where, that building is and the sidewalk is, just, with bikers or, people walking down the street. So to add another blockage would really, limit our visibility.
You have to make sure you have good insurance, right?
That's right. That's right. Although insurance doesn't cover us any day ending in Y, so.
The logo. So the sign is going to basically, everything would remain the same. You're just changing your logo, basically.
That is correct.
I like the new logo, by the way.
Thank you. That was a very hard decision to make. A lot of work and planning went into that one. So thank you. We appreciate that.
Yes, Mr. Garber.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it because it's no fault of their own, and I think it would make it more dangerous on there, as long as, when they do something, that they can get a monument sign architecturally into that, but nobody wants to make it, I don't think, more dangerous for anybody.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Yes, Pat.
Maybe for the legal department, but does that Leverton who signed the acknowledgement that there's a 7-year period he had to update that sign bear any responsibility for any costs in doing this?
Well, the affidavit or authorization acknowledgement flows with the land. So, yeah, maybe the current property owner would have an action against the prior property owner. But certainly the township can't reach to that prior property owner because that obligation flows with the land, and that was acquired when they purchased the land.
I knew it. I was waiting. Yes, Nancy.
Well, I typically am opposed to not conforming with the sign ordinance, but I'm not going to object to this. However, I guess I would like to ask Karen or Marty, how does this happen? How do we go 14 years or whatever it is? It's six. How do we get? Doesn't anybody follow up on when these are supposed to come in? I mean, do you need some kind of a chart that, like in my phone or something? I mean, it just bothers me that we have this in our ordinance, but nobody follows up on it. And I'm not blaming the people at Barron Insurance, but I guess I need to know how this happens.
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
Currently, we have no mechanism in place. Jody and I have had this discussion many times that we have to find a way to flag this or trigger this, that something reminds us in 7 years. The only place where it is actually documented is in the building department program when the permit is issued. But not having a flag that would remind us in 7 years, we don't have anything in place to follow it. What triggers it is something like this. It's now this many years later, and because they are now coming in to make a change to the sign, we get into that program, and there it is flagged, a notification that a 7-year grace period was signed in that year, then it has expired. So until we can get something put in place where those are going to, we're going to be notified when those are nearing, because they are to be brought in. So we don't, we can't fault the new owners or even the old owners. The old owners should know that they signed that. It's notarized. But again, unless a sign application comes in to make a change, we have nothing that notifies us. And we've discussed it. We have to figure out a way to be notified of those that are expiring.
So might I suggest that you solve the problem, either get that out of the ordinance, eliminate it. It's ridiculous to have it in there if there's no consequences. And you and the building department need to be, you're not going to be here, maybe 10 years later. I don't know, but you need to have something in place. I'm not saying you, I'm saying the planning department and the building department need to work together to have something in place that does trigger some kind of a thing that comes up on your computer and lists the people that need to come into compliance. Because at this point, I agree, you can't blame the new owners, but this shouldn't be the only thing that triggers it. There has to be some solution. Maybe make the attorney liable to come up with a.
Yeah, jump right on that, Marty.
Yes, Mr. Garbrick?
I guess one of the questions I was just thinking when Nancy was saying that, when they signed that original agreement, there really wasn't a good answer, even though they're supposed to comply in 7 years without changing the building, because whoever owns it, if it was still the other people or that, the predicament is it'll be in the way and it's more dangerous. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of, you're going, okay, we do this, we'll worry about it in 7 years. But if the building doesn't change, 7 years from now, this owner or the next owner be going, I'm not complying, but I really can't do it because it's a safety. So I'm just thinking out loud on that,
No, you're absolutely right, Joe. In this one instance, that's true. But think of Lewis Avenue and all the big old pole highway signs that are there that signed something and they were supposed to come into compliance, but never did.
I agree. I'm just talking about this one. I don't even know why it would be signed unless, you know what I'm saying? Because it really can't be done without making it dangerous. So
I agree.
That's a Marty question, but maybe it's there in case they do change their building. It comes up, but nobody wants to make it more dangerous for anybody.
Well, I think the purpose of this is not to make anything dangerous. The key is that the pole sign be dismantled. Whether it gets replaced with a monument sign or not is a whole nother question. The whole motivation for this is that the pole signs do not continue to exist after 7 years.
Okay.
Hello?
Tear it down.
Yes, Mr. Fritz? Mr. Fritz, did you have a question? I guess not. All right.
Ask George if he's still there.
George, are you still there?
No, Fritz.
Oh, is Mr. Fritz there still? Oh, okay. We can wait a second then. I do have a question. I know she said something about signing something for 10 years, but if that building never gets renovated in that 10 years, do we need to even put a time on this time frame to get it updated, or just if they redo the building to where they can have a monument sign to make it safe, then they would? This is a kind of question for Marty. I don't know if that's a way we
I
can.
would not recommend going beyond the allowance in the ordinance, which is 7 years. And you're already making it 20 years probably if you extended another 7. So you should never go unlimited because you have an ordinance. If the ordinance provisions get amended, then that won't be a problem, or if it's repealed. But to go beyond what the ordinance says at this point, I don't know how you support that.
Just put like a notion that we're doing it for safety reasons, and that way who's ever on the planning commission, if it came up again.
Your reason would not be for safety reasons because removing the pole sign is not going to create a safety hazard.
I see, putting a monument sign would be the safety hazard.
That would be the other question that we're really not be addressing.
Gotcha. Thank you, Marty. Perfect. Did you have a question,
I'm back.
Mr. Fritz?
No, it just dropped out. The phone call dropped out.
Okay. At this time, I will entertain a oh, Jody? Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
That's okay. I just wanted to say more with Karen and I working on moving forward with these. To Nancy's question, is the issue we're having is the ones that have been years previous signed. Moving forward, we can definitely stay on top of them, but it's ones, this has been back since 2007, so there's no way to backtrack of how many 7-year contracts have been signed years past, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Jody. All right. There's no other questions or comments. I will entertain a motion at this time.
But jump right in there. Okay. I'm prepared to make a motion. I make a motion to approve the request to maintain the existing pole sign at the insurance office. And you can put in the address for me, Jody. And also to dismiss the June 11, 2007 owner signed notarized 7-year grace period commitment that required the owner to bring a non-conforming sign into compliance June 17, 2014 with the now existing sign ordinance for the zoning district. And also to permit non-conforming freestanding sign design to continue where a monument sign is required. And that all required permits be obtained from Bedford Township. That's my motion.
I have a motion. Do I have support?
Second.
I support it.
I have lots of support. We'll go with Mr. Mahoney because I think I heard him first. All right, Mr. Garvick, can you take the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mr. Fritz,
Yes.
Mr. Helm,
Yes.
Mr. Anger,
Yes.
Ms. Tinneberry,
Yes.
Garvick, yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Mills.
You guys have a great evening.
Thank you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Next on the agenda is a discussion on proposed language for a zoning text amendment regarding the agricultural zoning district from Ag to an Ag 2 district to bring the zoning ordinance into compliance with the 2015 adopted master plan zoning designation. Karen, can you give us some background?
Yes, this was on our last planning commission agenda, and we had fairly lengthy discussion. Those of you that were in attendance know I had some audio difficulties, so I was unable to make any further comment on comments that were made for discussion. I did shoot out an email just to offer comments that I would have had at the meeting on those questions you had, one of them being the 3 isolated areas that were designated, and the other one being including the Ag 2 within the open space in a subdivision. I offered my explanation on that, and then we also sent that information to Lucy Horton, the township planner, to ask the reason why it was included. I think that was the direction we were given to make contact with Lucy on why those were included within the ordinance. We did discuss it with her, and then she did offer the explanation and actually concurred that the removal of those 3 pocket areas, once it was discovered or determined that there were only 2 out of 2 parcels out of that, and those in total out of those 3 pocket areas that would qualify for this zone district. The one that, when I explained, that is north of the existing industrial park, we do have it master planned for industrial. It's actually research and development. If the industrial park were to ever expand, that would be an ideal location if they could work around, because I did explain that there is the railroad track, there is a pipeline, there are some flood plain areas. So that would be an ideal location for industrial, having the railroad immediately to the east of it. So we recommended to remove that particular one. The other one that was to the north recommended to remove that one as well due to heavy coverage of flood zone area. You can build in a flood zone area. However, you have to elevate, and it would have been rather difficult because it is it covers that parcel quite extensively. The one that would be center on Lewis Avenue, nothing in that area would have qualified. They are all much smaller than the area required for an Ag 2. Plus, they are developed. It would probably be more suitable for residential zoning because it's being utilized for that right now. The open space, as I explained and Lucy understood as well, we have difficulty right now trying to enforce that open space to be kept as open space and not being utilized by neighbors as well. In discussing it, Ag 2, while trying to preserve 1 acre of an Ag 2 parcel for farmland, it would be difficult to find a farmer that would be willing to come in and farm 1 acre of land for that parcel. So we felt that it appropriate to remove the agricultural and possibly even discuss in the future to remove that option as well. For the residential, but for right now, we're only looking at the agricultural Ag 2 portion of that. So I'm hoping that we were able to answer all of your questions, myself and Jody and Lucy. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
I bet you that was Nancy that did that. Do we have any, oh, Dennis, yes, I see your hand now.
I think, in my opinion, we've addressed everything. If take Lizzie's recommendation to remove those parcels, I think we should probably move this forward for a public hearing. Been a long time.
Yes, Karen?
And if you take a look at the zoning map that was included with this, those areas have been removed, and the language within the open space was also removed for agricultural too. So the map will reflect that. So it already has been removed. And the other thing I wanted to mention that due to the fact that this has been an ongoing consideration since 2016, we did have a joint meeting with the Planning Commission, Ordinance Enforcement, and the Township Board where this was discussed shortly after the master plan was adopted. The opinion was that while now we would be required to take this before the Township Board to receive direction, because this was taking place prior to that resolution, that it is believed that this could move forward at the direction of the Planning Commission and then on to the Township Board for consideration.
So what you're saying is we don't have to have their blessing to schedule a hearing?
We would like to keep this moving forward, and with the opinion that since it has been ongoing and it was taking place prior to that resolution, we would like to move it forward without going to the Township Board at this time for direction.
I agree.
I agree. I don't think this is what the Township Board was meaning about just having a text amendment. So I think this is a whole totally new rezoning adoption, and I will second Dennis's motion. Wasn't that a motion, Dennis, that you
Sure.
made? Okay, that's what I thought.
Keep your pants on. I'll slow down.
So the motion is for?
To move forward to public hearing.
Perfect, and we have a second from Nancy. All right, Mr. Garvey, can you take a roll?
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Ms. Tinnevery,
Yes.
Mr. Fritz,
Mr. Ritchie Mike?
Mr. Helm,
Mr. Helm, you're muted.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Mahoney,
Aye.
is Mr. Fritz there? I think he dropped
Yes.
off.
There he is.
I'm here.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And Mr. Garvich, yes.
And Mr. Angers, yes.
Mr. Anger.
Motion carried. We'll move it on to the public hearing. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Karen, do you have another meeting scheduled that would go along with, or?
What we'll have to do is make sure that we get it in format to present and get the publication put together to publish, because we will still have to move forward as always to make a text change. We will also want to consult with our attorneys. We're trying to make a determination now, because we will be rezoning properties, how the people, the owners of those properties will be notified. Do they have to be individually notified, or we're working on that right now, because there are several parcels and we want to make sure that we handle it correctly. If we don't have to send notices to the individuals, we want to take advantage of that. But if we do, we will certainly follow those as well. It's not going to impact those those parcels, most of them, it's going to be a benefit for them. And most of the parcels, to be honest with you, may be already agriculturally zoned, but they're residentially classified. People don't understand that, but we will certainly follow what is determined, how we have to notify the people. So I'm not sure just yet when we're going to do it. We have to publish a minimum of 15 days prior to having the public hearing. It's probably sometime in October, so we can get it to the township board. We'd like to get it in with this township board only because they have some familiarity with the actual zoning amendment.
Thank you. I think I'm actually one of the people that this affects. I will be going from ag to ag too. So I'll probably be against it and fight it all I can. Next, we move on to number 8, public comment. This is for anybody that would like to speak. We'll give them a few minutes to call in, unless, George, if you have anybody already. Okay, we'll give them another 30 seconds, and then we'll move on. Thank you. Yes, Karen?
While we're waiting, I don't know if Marty had anything further he wanted to add to that. About notification or anything? Is it something we still want to take some time and do further research on? You're muted, Marty.
You're muted.
All I would say is that the law requires written notice and publishing of a public hearing for a rezoning change affecting parcels of property, and that all owners of parcels of property and those within 300 feet of those parcels would receive notice by mail, unless there's so many parcels being rezoned that is 11 or more. Then the law says we do not have to mail written notice to those property owners or to those people within 300 feet of the parcel. So if there's a cluster, I notice on that revised zoning map, it might be a smaller cluster in the southwest corner that may or may not have 11 parcels in it. But the larger area obviously has more than 11 parcels. We wouldn't be required by law to send notice to those property owners or the people within 300 feet. But then it comes a question, well, what if they really never hear about their property being rezoned? And are there going to be a bunch of complaints to the township elected officials saying you rezoned my property, I didn't even know it, you didn't send me anything? So, there's the practical consideration, and I guess we'll have to make a decision on, well, we know what's legal, on what's best. If you have any comments or thoughts on that, we'd appreciate it.
I think that would be a significant financial burden to the township. There's a lot of houses in that future ag 2 proposal. So
I wish I had the information on how many parcels are actually within that area, but we don't have that at this time.
It's got to be thousands. Thank you, George. Yes, Nancy?
Well, I, for one, don't really care how much it costs the township general fund, because I totally am against government overreach. And I think that I'm not thinking even that anyone would be opposed to it, but I think that out of courtesy for the government to come in, and I'm all for it, I'm totally behind it, but to change someone's zoning in their, their property and not inform them when they don't really have any say about it, I think I know they can come to the public hearing, that's not the point, but I think that they should all be informed and certainly all be sent the public notice. It may be thousands of parcels, but whatever it is, I think that the government shouldn't be doing it without informing the property owners. And we certainly have their names and address in the assessing department. We send out all the notices to people to tell them that their taxes are going up. I think we could easily send notices to those parcels and let them know about the rezoning.
Ms. Tenneberry, you think we could get the township board support on that?
Certainly.
It would make the planning department and attorney feel much better.
Yeah, well, definitely. I would get their, remember, I'm leaving. So on my swan song, they would be glad to give me anything as long as I leave.
Is there any way to save postage on it?
Jay, I just want to say that I agree 100% with Nancy.
Thanks, Pat.
I want everyone to be informed. I just want to know if there's a way to do it without spending thousands and thousands of tax dollars.
You can save postage the way the assessing department does it. I'm sure the planning department knows about how to send it out on that, whatever that paid postage rate meter thing that the assessing department uses to save tax dollars. I don't know exactly what it's called, but I know that they use that. Karen, do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know if they still call it pre-sort or not, but I believe that's what it is.
That's it. Okay. You know, we do pre-sort.
I can hand a few out myself,
Yeah.
door to door.
Don't bother sending one to Matt.
You can save my postage.
Hey, you're a jogger.
That's right. I'll just start on my jogging runs. Pat, is there any other questions or comments? Any new information, Karen?
Nothing at this time.
All right, I think we all had our staff comments. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, 2 attorneys.
We must have said something not right.
Oh boy, we're paying double.
Early
Hey,
showed up.
we're not paying for him, are we?
Double time.
Donation.
Donation. Did you get a second?
I got a motion. Do I have support?
Support.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Meeting adjourned.